Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a really fascinating interpretation of a very, very well-known ancient rule. We're diving into a source that argues its meaning is way more relevant to our modern lives than you might think. So, let's just jump right in with a pretty direct question. Are you, right now, breaking one of the 10 Commandments? I know, it's a bold way to start, but it gets right to the heart of what we're exploring today. And here's the thing. According to the source for this explainer, a surprising number of us are doing just that, and we don't even realize it. So this is the text we're talking about, the Second Commandment. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. Now, when you read that, your first thought is probably, okay, easy. I don't have any little wooden statues in my house. I'm good, right? But what if that's completely missing the real point? And this is where it gets really interesting. Our source makes the case that when we get hung up on the literal carved images, we're actually missing the original intent entirely. It's not about woodwork, you see. It's about what we depend on. So to really get it, we've got to go back in time and look at what these so-called carved images actually were. Because they weren't just random sculptures. Nope, they had a specific name and a very specific job to do. They were called teraphim. Think of them as these little personal household idols. They were super common back then, small objects that people would keep close, maybe even carry around with them. Okay, so what they did is the crucial part. These teraphim weren't just decorations sitting on a shelf. Oh no. People genuinely relied on them for a good harvest, for a successful hunt, for confidence. It was this physical thing you could touch, something that gave you a sense of security. Kind of like a supercharged good luck charm, right? It created this dependency that had absolutely nothing to do with God. And this is where our source makes a really powerful pivot. The argument is, okay, we don't have these ancient teraphim anymore, but that core human behavior, that need to create something to depend on, oh, that hasn't gone anywhere. It's just the objects have changed. I mean, look at this comparison. The source draws a straight line from those ancient little idols people used for a good harvest to what it calls our modern teraphim. What are those? Well, our phones, our social media feeds, maybe even our careers. You know, the things we look to for that same sense of worth, that feeling of security. So this totally reframes what an idol even is. The source defines it like this. An idol is anything. It could be a person, an object, an idea, anything that we depend on to meet those really deep needs of the heart. You know, love, security, worth, significance. And that idea leads to this incredibly powerful metaphor that the source uses to describe, well, us, our natural human tendency to create these things to depend on. It's a quote from the theologian John Calvin, and it's a zinger. The human heart is an idol factory. Wow. The argument is that our hearts are just constantly churning out things to rely on, things to worship, things to put at the very center of our lives. So you see, it's not an ancient problem. It's a human one. So what does that actually look like today? Well, here are some really concrete examples. Think about it. When your sense of value goes up or down based on the number of likes and shares you get, or that pit in your stomach, that real anxiety a teenager feels when their phone gets taken away. It's when our whole identity gets so wrapped up in a job or a relationship that if it disappeared, we'd feel like we have nothing left. And the end result of all this? According to this interpretation, these modern idols, they just shove aside the true foundation for our self-worth. They make our sense of who we are super fragile, totally dependent on what other people think or what's happening on the outside. But wait, the argument doesn't even stop there. It actually gets even more intense. The source takes it one step further by looking at the second half of the commandment, the part that deals with how all this affects our kids. You see, this part of the commandment talks about consequences being passed down from generation to generation, and our source applies this whole modern idea of idolatry directly to that warning. And the way it frames this idea is with this image that is just so powerful and memorable. It goes like this. The things that you make your idols, the things you really truly depend on for your deepest sense of who you are, they are put directly into the pockets of your children. Just like those little ancient teraphim, right? They're just passed on, almost automatically, without anyone even thinking about it. Think about the implication of that. It's huge. It means that our kids just absorb our value systems by default. What we truly depend on, whether it's our career success, getting other people's approval, or that shiny online image, that becomes the foundation that their lives get built on too. So when you put it all together, What this interpretation is really doing is pulling the Second Commandment out of the history books and putting it right in front of us. It's a challenge, really. A challenge to look at our own lives and ask some pretty tough questions about where our security actually comes from. And that's really what it leaves us with, right? This one big, lingering question. If you strip everything else away, what is the true foundation of your worth and your security? It's a question this source argues is at the very heart of this ancient rule. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.